Hey, man. So what do you do when you wake up in the middle of the night? You go in the studio and you be productive. Being productive is the name of the game. My delicious adult beverage. Mm-mm. So, anybody got work in the morning? Because if you do, why the fuck you ain't sleep? Boo, Bo, do you ever sleep, Bo? If I'm up early, you up early. If I'm up late, you up late. When do you sleep, nigga? I know I barely sleep, but that ain't normal for everybody. You be up more than I be up. That don't make no damn sense, bro. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, to me, I'm just saying, you be up all the time, nigga. You a fucking zombie, a vampire, a ghost? I mean, be honest with me now. Nigga, you talk about me. Oh, it's a late night stream. You wouldn't know it was a late night stream if your ass wasn't up, bruh. That's the point I'm trying to make. You feel me? If you was asleep right now, you wouldn't even know what the fuck I was doing. But no, your ass is up. So now I got questions for you. Like, why are you up? And then I got other questions like, why you ain't sleep? Oh my God. You about to work yourself to death. See? That's your damn problem right now. Oh no, sir, boss. Don't pick that up, boss. I's got it. Yeah, it's 11 where I'm at. It's at 11:21. Alright, I'll cut you some slack since it ain't so late where you at. It ain't even 10 o'clock yet. Okay, you got that one. I'll let you slide on that. It ain't nothing but 9:30 where I'm at. Okay, you got that. Hello, boss? Don't make Jay Boozy lift that shit no more. His back can't take it. Him say him tired, boss. Him not coming to work no more tomorrow. Him say his back hurt. And tell that nigga I'm docking his pay. Him say he don't feel good. You need to cut that shit out, boy. Always trying to prove how strong you is. I's a strong boss. I can lift it. Now you talking about hurt my back at work. I bet you did. I bet you did hurt your back at work. I remember when I used to hurt my back at work. Then I realized I was the only one hurting my back. I had to stop doing that kind of work. I'm looking around. Everybody else standing straight up. I'm hunched over because my back hurt. Something about this ain't right. How come y'all back don't hurt like my back hurt? You're gonna have to make some changes here, people. Oh, these 2 snow days have been glorious. Now it's time to take my black ass back to work tomorrow. But unlike some people, when I go to work tomorrow, I don't plan on hurting my back. I mean, I know you probably ain't planning on hurting your back either, but you know, you did something to cause you to hurt your back. See, when I go to work, I ain't even gonna do nothing that can even potentially harm me physically at all. Can you lift that up? No, I cannot. It might hurt my back. Oh, don't worry about it then. We got it. I know you do, because I don't. I ain't gonna lift shit.
Come on, you don't follow me up the steps?
Move.
Are you coming in or out? No, you're not about to sit up under me. You just went outside. Goodbye.
So we got our flag raising ceremony. We got our flag raising ceremony on Saturday. And the president put me down as the flag raiser. Nightbot, thank you, I guess. But believe it or not, don't tell nobody. I'm black all year long. Word up. I'm black all year. I mean, February is cool, even though it's the shortest month of the year, and it also includes President's Day, which is celebration of all the former slave owners that came before us during this same month. And then it's Abraham Lincoln's birthday and a bunch of other shit that they cram all into this month to dilute the fact that we supposed to be studying out here. But hey, thank you for even saying that. I'll just say thank you. See, but now it's past time for just saying that shit, man. It's Happy Black History Month. Like, what are we doing this month? What are we doing? I'm tired of talking about shit and saying shit. I want to do stuff. I want to make a change. And that's what we're doing. We're making a change. Gonna go out there and raise that flag, that Pan-African flag, that RBG. So when motherfuckers drive past City Hall and they see that flag, they gonna question to themselves, I've never seen that flag there before. What the fuck does this red, black, and green flag supposed to mean? And then they have to do research, and then they understand Pan-Africanism, and you may come across some information about Marcus Garvey and what the colors of the flag signify, and then all this type shit, you know? So we try to do shit like that instead of just saying, Happy Black History Month. You know? And during our flag raising ceremony, we're going to announce that we do have the building for our cultural center so that we can build stronger individuals in our community, because we're going to do stuff. It's time to stop talking about this shit and make shit happen. So if you out there doing stuff in your community, more power to you. I can't wait for that shit. I mean, cause whoever raised the flag, they gonna be all over the newspapers. Cause motherfucker gonna be taking pictures of that shit. When I start hanging that flag on the hooks, tie that bitch on there, start pulling that shit up the goddamn pole. You can be like, oh my God, Mr. Prince, he's all about Pan-Africanism. But you gotta get more people to come out. You gotta get people to come out and celebrate with us.
Hosted by the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. And it's
I actually want to jump onto one of these Clubhouse chat rooms real quick and see what somebody's saying here. Secrets of Instagram marketing. That sounds like a good chat room. Then I was in there. I was in this one chat room just talking about art, and I told a story about how I met Tim Akamura, and then this one dude, like, he just tried to like overshadow me by telling Tim Akamura stories and saying, "Oh, I went to his house and hung out with him and da 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 da." I'm like, but the way he said it, he was like, "You probably don't know Tim, and I do, and I'm gonna tell you a story that proves I know Tim Akamura, and you probably just passed by and talked to him one time." And it's like, so what, bro? But just to brag a little bit, this is Tim Akamura, and I do message him, and if I message him, he messages me back, yo. Like, it's not like that fucking big, yo. Just like I know Fahamu Peku, and I've talked to him before personally, and have pictures with him and shit like that. But it is cool when Tim Akamura hits you up in your personal DM, though. Just like says some cool shit. Like, it does make me feel kind of good. I ain't gonna lie. Yeah, he's a fucking legend. He's like a living legend. So I get it. But I don't know, dude was acting weird about that shit. Black Style. AI and data discussions for introverts and tech entrepreneurs. Would you date someone who is not physically attractive? The Hang Jazz Jam Session and Gathering. The Fall Off Part 1, Rockefeller Records. Simcoe's Art Club. I wonder what Simcoe's Art Club is about. It has 222 people in here, but it only has 4 people speaking.
Just Blaze was talking last night.
That maybe is problematic because it lacks authentic meaning, and that's interesting. And then anyhow, time for a Q&A.
Yeah, Stefan, you've been bumbling on for a little bit. I wanted to interject and mention.
You've been bumbling on for a little bit. I wanted to interject and mention I don't like people like that. And I'm currently responding to my own tweet.
Cool. And I almost got sidetracked to make a meme that this.
It's the lack of green space. There's no real response to the demand of food in cities. So these these modern farming techniques create opportunity to which you can do vertical farming systems, and then you do a lot of growing behind closed doors in these cities. So instead of importing stuff from the rural areas, you're kind of growing it on site and supplying the people in a much finer radius, and that in short makes the embodied energy of kind of just the farming system a lot lower with the distribution. And then on the aquaponic side, like me was saying, that you use fish, basically like fish clean the water, and it kind of creates like this another different system as well. So they're both really highly like effective.
That's something else too that I see. Like, I have met some really dope artists on here, but once again, it's like
in Europe, a lot more in like Northern Europe, there's a big.
I hate to fucking toot my own horn, but technically and conceptually, when it comes to art, and I see other people's shit, I'm still in like the top 10 percentile, yo. Of people that fucking even phase me or move me with their art or with their visuals, it's like 10% of people, yo. And it's like, fuck, that's how I know, man. I gotta get my shit the fuck out there, yo. Like, some extra kind of way, do something more to fucking like move this shit or get it in the right eyes. Because if motherfuckers out there be making the art they make, and their social media has like hundreds of thousands of followers, and I don't know, it just seems weird. It just seems like, I don't know. I honestly just feel like, once again, I just have to have the right person to see this shit, yo. My bad. I didn't fucking start scrolling on social media. Fucking hate when I do that. I get stuck on that bitch quick too.
Also, did someone say they
Somebody
were
brought me up
drawing?
as a speaker
Who's
on
drawing?
this.
I'm drawing right now.
Like now, it's
'Cause I'm
just in a
doing,
few days. I've only
a
been on. I
tree
still got
dates
my
black
hat, so
cartoon.
I've been
So I'm
on
gonna probably
this shit
post
for
it
less
in
than
the
a week.
next probably 30 minutes to an
But the
hour
few
or
chat rooms that
something.
I've been in,
So
like
just know it's all
I
like
get
a whole
brought
bunch
up
of
to the stage a
90s
lot now when
cartoons.
people
So
see my
yeah,
name.
cute. I'm also drawing too. Ooh, what you drawing?
I didn't know they don't bring you up.
I'm
I always
working
get
on
brought up when
my
I go
black
into
Yeah,
the room.
like artists, like
I mean, you get the chance to speak is another thing, but I always get brought up immediately.
art rooms. Like I say, the other art room, there's 222 people in there, and there's only 4 people on the platform that are speaking. Sometimes they don't pull up everybody.
It's better than late night anyway. I don't know, me personally, I got some really good sessions last night. There's some trolling on that shit though. Some real bad trolling on that app.
When you finish.
Gotcha, for sure. For the RJ. So I brought I brought up the fact that
This dude on the app yesterday told the other dude he was gonna come and shoot him, and he know his peoples, and I'm gonna come shoot you, da 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 da. All cause they were just trolling in the group, like they were making fun of everybody. They made fun of me when I first got in there, but it was like fun jokes, and some motherfuckers just can't handle the heat.
How plants flourish when they can have the nutrients they need, and when they have the light that they need, and when they have the water that they need, and when they have everything they need in order to flourish, how brightly they shine and how quickly they can grow. And then even plants that are, phytos, like maybe like a pythos or something like that, a pothos, sorry, or something like that you can ignore and kind of give it everything it needs. And then as soon as as you do, all of a sudden it just bursts and it just starts growing like crazy because it finally got what it needed in order to survive. And then also thinking about the Amazon. Sorry, I'm rambling, but I just want to get on.
Oh, they got a Baltimore chat. I'm about to hop in there.
I don't know who the fuck Mickey C is, but
the Amazon forest that was on fire. There's like levels to the earth that
Soulja Boy's in this chat, so everybody's in there right now.
And there's history within that earth. I think it's called dark black soil or deep dark. I can't remember the exact name. I can Google it, but it's a certain type of soil that has like all of these different levels of history within it and different levels of nutrients that the roots can go down to and pull from. So sometimes that makes me think about when we get connected to our ancestors and how it feeds us and how that also helps us grow.
Oh my God,
When
people
we have like
too
those
spiritual.
nutrients that we can dig into and how we feed our roots and what that does for our own growth in some sort of way. And like the fruits that you produce, like America has all these cornfields and different agricultural, situations, food basically, but the food doesn't have the same taste, the same flavor, the same nutrients because the soil is not supporting it. So a banana in Jamaica is going to taste so different than a banana in the States or a banana in a place that's only used to pull out and not to give back. And it makes me think, like, every time I look at plants, I'm like, oh God, this is black as fuck. So yeah, I'll stop spiraling. I could talk about this for a while. No, I love plants, and me too. We can, I completely agree, and I love that point that you made that, like, each plant is an individual in its own, and so once you figure out what it is that it needs in order for it to grow, then it's honestly so beautiful watching it grow and watching it, become its best version of itself. And so I feel you completely when you talk about that. And honestly, like, lately, my biggest pride and joy has been able to revive like my mom's orchids when I came back. Because now I'm in California currently, but I go to school and I actually live in DC. And so when I came back,
how you live in DC? You all the way in Cali?
I'm DC sis. I'm sorry. I said okay, DC sis. Hey, we got a link if some people are in the DMV area. me up in the city.
I want to visit. Okay.
With their art scene. I know a couple of artists from DC, but I just never been able to get in the scene. But then, like the other dude was saying, yo, like artists don't like when other people come from out of town and try to take over their art scene, yo.
But the one thing, men from Baltimore, they don't like out of towners, but when it comes to the art scene, we're very supportive. Like there's been so many open mic nights I went to that the people rapping were from somewhere else or painting or whatever, they were from somewhere else. So like when it comes to the art scene, Baltimore is super supportive because it's just so fucking small. You just want to network with other people, like.
But using that water after
Yeah.
it's been there for like a day or two, using that water to water my kids.
You go to New York, motherfuckers
just
gonna
by
be mad.
knowing that the bananas provide so many nutrients
And
for the plant.
I done basically conquered the art scene around here, but I just need to use these networks I have now to like just get to a bigger platform. But now it's just
If you found the right place in Baltimore to show, like I know all the areas in Maryland that you could go to make money. Like I know all the general areas and neighborhoods. You just have to find, a place to show your art.
That makes me think of Black. Like you don't gotta do the right thing. Little plants are black. Plants are black. Yeah. Like I love.
so once again the thing with artists, even I say when I was making music, we did shows trying to get money and get the hype up from doing shows, but artists can't even do that shit right now. Especially like up and coming artists, like even headliners aren't doing as many shows right now. And then Dave Chappelle just tested positive for COVID. Like what the fuck?
Oh wow.
So motherfuckers, I don't know, the whole art scene, the music industry, and visual artists are talking about different ways to get it without going to galleries now, because most galleries aren't fucking open, and the whole thing is just weird as shit, yo.
I mean, at this point, unless you can really get paid from streams and merchandise, what the fuck?
Yeah, you ain't exactly, and on top of that, once
And
again,
the celebrities don't save their money; they spend that shit like.
but that's it though. If you didn't have a big voice already, if you didn't have a platform before this, so that you can get money off of streaming, like a lot of motherfuckers ain't coming up right now, not just off of streaming shit.
Let me start like this. Carrots, just cut the top off, and then you can either get some dirt
Them damn Kardashians.
and put it straight into the soil, or you can get a cup of water and you let it sit there in there, regrow in there for a little bit, and then you put it into the soil. But you have to wait till it pops out these little seedlings at the top, and then you pull them out.
Gotta figure out that shit like that.
So carrots take some time and effort. You might not want to you have to keep looking at it. You got every 3 days change the water and all
Somebody
that
was
stuff.
like, I hope the people who make fake eyelashes say something racist so I can see what happens.
So easy, you can really
tired of this
start
shit.
those mad quick and they'll regrow instantly. Same with celery,
Well, they're probably definitely the same
lettuce.
people
Like
who
you
make
cut
our
the
weed
base
from
off
waste, so.
and you just stick it in the dirt and it'll start to regrow.
Before you keep going, I think it's important for people to know that it has to be organic and not super GMO, or else it's just gonna die.
Yeah, you have to think about I've been trying to play with certain things from the grocery store though, so it's you got to really think about what you want to actually regrow, because whatever the mother thing is, the baby thing will be. So if you're regrowing stuff that has a lot of GMO,
Really?
it's just GMO.
Captain Obvious?
Is it deep? That was kind of deep.
Oh well, not really, because I grew a plant and it wasn't exactly like the plant it came from.
Right, but I mean, you're not gonna plant a grape and get a piece of a grape. You're not gonna plant I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Strawberries and get oranges.
Right, that's my point.
Listen, I'm an earth sign, so
I'm a what? What?
An earth sign? Oh god. Of course she's an earth sign like me.
It's definitely the blackest shit I've ever
Making the earth signs look like those.
Yes, even the carrot thing. Bean, you said that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. Little do you know,
Like Bean and this chick Momo, they mean all
inside and out together.
She's the
skin, your hair.
one. She's the
Like,
one who invited
if
me
you
and her
apply
just now.
that to your lifestyle, like certain things that you use it to grow plants, you take that much care of yourself, you'd be surprised at the outcome.
This is some people's lives.
Like,
Though. Like, I don't know.
right
I could
now.
be in there for 3-4 hours, but I couldn't be in there for 8
It
hours.
was James.
I mean, just listening to it at work, this is like talk radio for me where I'm not trying to talk.
Even if you're at work and literally have nothing to do, but like,
Yeah.
even when I'm here, if I'm not doing anything, like I could be doing nothing at all for the whole day. I'm not about to waste 8 hours listening to this shit.
Yeah.
3 or 4, yeah. Because you do learn a lot of shit.
From the things that we eat, and
Then it gets to the point where it's just like, okay, who can show off, who can play their music, who can get on the stage. So when it gets crazy, I just be like, nah, fuck
your
that.
hair, your skin, your
And somebody said they feel like it's a social experiment, and then my sister said the same thing yesterday. I'm like, well, it kind of is, but
Here's a room and nobody's talking.
Kind of dramatic life experience that abruptly in some way or another changes your practice or your ability to approach your practice or even do your practice in the first place, or it's made you question or whatever, anything like that where you've had some type of significant life change. And I don't necessarily just mean like you moved to a new town or something like that, although that's totally valid and I'd love to hear about those, but I mean like something like an injury or something physically changed you or mentally changed you where you had to intrinsically change how you're thinking about art, how you feel inside of your art, and how you make your art. I'm asking the question from the perspective I'm currently in the midst of dealing with some type of mystery neurodegenerative condition, and it's entirely affected my ability to do my art in any way whatsoever, and it's been something that I've been grappling with for quite a bit, and I haven't made anything for several months. But so I'm curious if anyone's been through anything that could be comparable and kind of what your experience was around that.
Oh, definitely. This is kind of personal, but this year, unfortunately, my dad has been pretty mentally ill my whole life, and he kind of snapped and was, shooting a gun in the house, and he pointed at me and then dislocated my shoulder. So I was unable to do any of my artwork for most of last year, which is incredibly frustrating because I draw all day, every day. And coming out of that experience, one thing to definitely do is, take the time to take care of yourself. Don't die for your art. Don't suffer, just to produce. So if you need to take some time, take a step away, take your time, but then come back. And when you come back, you'll notice a visual representation of that change. For me, I've been a comic artist, but I ended up coming back and moving into abstract art, which is something I'd never, I had an interest in, and I always appreciated, but I never really made it myself. And just, I realized how much I love color, and, it just kind of changed the way I was looking at my own work. And that's one thing I've been doing lately is kind of moving away from line and moving more towards color and form, and just trying to understand what I like, and kind of rediscover, me. Which is so. I'm sorry to hear that you're going through that, and definitely, it's cool that we have this now to kind of support each other. But yeah, definitely, I would say, if you need to take time, but then when you come back, you might not be the same person, the same artist you were, and embrace that, and change, and kind of come out of that cocoon a butterfly.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. That's one of the things where with what I'm confronting, if my situation doesn't, I'm already a different person than I was, and so if it doesn't revert, I'll never get back to being that person. So I'm already in a place of intrinsically having to discover who I am now, you know, what it means to be me in a world that I experience differently than I did previously. And, you know, that, you know, on any level is intense. My work, and that, you know, I ask myself that question a lot. It's a matter of, you know, give myself space. I'm kind of forced to give myself space at this point in time because I like.
He asked the question so he can tell his story.
Myself space at this point in time.
He's like, anybody else going through this? Because this is my problem. This dude never told me who Nikki C is.
Supreme Court Associate Justice Anthony Kennedy presides over a mock trial on unwarranted searches and seizures. And that's our program schedule. Next, a talk about the shifting racial makeup of the United States and what it might mean for the country's future. Author Jared Taylor and columnist Samuel Francis spoke at a conference on race and immigration. A group called American Renaissance hosted this hour-and-a-half-long program. First, author Jared Taylor.
All I can read is super duper gay. It's like, boy, it's okay to be an alpha male, but if that's the first thing, it's like, you just letting these bitches know, don't catch feelings.
Super duper alpha male.
Right, because I'm like, like, it's cool to be an alpha male, like, but you just, that's the first thing, and you said super, super duper. Like, okay, whatever that is.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
Basically, bitch, don't fall in love with me. That's what
the subject of my talk is race and nation. And what I would like to talk to you about today is the demographic future of the United States, especially with respect to shifting racial makeup and what this will mean for the future of our country. Now, we've already heard something about the demographic projections, but just last March, the Census Bureau released its periodic projection of the ethnic makeup of the United States in the next few decades, and they reported that if current immigration rates and differential birth rates continue, that by the year 2050, the percentage of Hispanics in the United States will have increased from 10 to 25%. The percentage of Asians from 3 to 8%, and that of blacks to 12 to 14%. Now, all of these increases will have taken place at the expense of whites, who will see their percentage drop from 74% to about 50%. So it'll be within 54 years that whites will be on the brink of becoming just another racial minority. Now, because whites are having so few babies, they'll be an extremely old minority. Within just 34 years, whites will already be, at current trends, a minority of the population under age 18, and they will be 3/4 of the population over age 65. This will be just 34 years from now, well within the lifetimes of many people in this room. Now, as usual, the Census Bureau's projections, which they do from time to time, attracted scarcely any attention at all, but let us be frank, as some of the speakers already have pointed out to you, if this transformation takes place, it will be a veritable transformation of the United States of America. And the reason is that race matters. The racial transformation will be a transformation of many other things as well. Now, most of the time, it's difficult to make predictions, especially about the future, as Mark Twain used to say. But when it comes to this particular transformation, there are a number of things that we can say with complete confidence. And the reason is that to know what the future will bring, all we need to do is visit those parts of the country where the transformation has already taken place. For example, places like Miami, or Detroit, or Monterey Park, California. Now, the details, the specific details of what happens when the population shifts from white to non-white are very interesting, but let us just set them aside for a moment and consider a different, extremely important, profoundly important aspect. And this is something everyone knows but rarely says, and that is this, that once the number of non-whites reaches a certain level in an area, whites will not or cannot stay. They refuse to be a minority. They move away from those places where they have become minorities, and they seek solace in those places where they are once again a majority. This is an empirical, utterly dependable phenomenon, and it's a fact that everyone, and I mean everyone, knows this to be true, little though they may wish to talk about it. The process simply doesn't work the other way. Not even the most ardent integrationist is willing to take the most obvious step to make integration really come about. That is to say, to buy a house in a black neighborhood, or move into a Mexican neighborhood, or even, for that matter, in many cases, send their children to public school. As far as whites are concerned, once a school or a part of a city has gone majority black or Hispanic, or even Asian in some cases, it might as well have disappeared from the map of their city. It becomes terra incognita, a little bit like those portions of ancient maps that used to say, "Here be dragons." What was once part of our nation and part of our civilization has slipped its leash. Therefore, one thing that we can say with complete certainty about the demographic change in the United States is that whites will withdraw from more and more parts of their country. It will, of course, be physically possible for whites to live with the Mexicans in Brownsville, Texas, or with blacks in Camden, New Jersey, but most will do just about everything possible to avoid it. Because the fact is, many of us can think of neighborhoods, of towns, of villages, places where we would like to live. And it's almost a certainty that if a white person is thinking of these places, they'll all have large white majorities. And by the same token, it would be difficult for any white person in the United States to name a single neighborhood or town in which you would wish to live that does not have a white majority. Now, much of the racial shift that the Census Bureau is predicting comes from third world immigration. Every year, as Dr. Lutton has explained to us already, we get about 800,000 legal immigrants to the United States, and we don't know how many illegals, 90% of whom are non-white. And immigration, of course, is not a force of nature. This is not a typhoon that we have no resistance to. This is a chosen policy that Congress could choose to unchoose. The United States has therefore, in effect, deliberately decided to make more and more parts of it, essentially, to put it rather provocatively and bluntly, off limits for whites. Now, you often hear that today's non-white immigrants are going to assimilate just the way the European ethnics did at the turn of the century. This view is hopelessly wrong because it avoids this painful question of race. Germans, Swedes, Irish, Polish, Jews, Italians, they all assimilated. Blacks and American Indians who have been here since colonial times, since far longer than many ethnic whites, many of them are still at the margins of society. Why is this? Well, the answer is clear. It's because race largely governs assimilation. Certainly, some non-whites fully embrace European civilization and European culture, but large numbers do not. And the question is really, why should they? It's entirely natural and normal that people embrace and love and cherish the culture and the way of life of their own people. Of course, part of today's orthodoxy is that when whites move out in the face of a changing population, it's because whites are uniquely racist. I'll return to this question in a moment, but in fact, people of other races are not all that keen in sharing their neighborhoods with people unlike themselves. There are now, in fact, plenty of places in the United States where there are large numbers of blacks and Hispanics and where whites play scarcely any role at all. For example, there are public schools in which there are practically no whites. Hispanics and blacks are the overwhelming majority, and they have race riots, they have racial rivalries in which whites play no part. At the same time, from Manhattan to Texas to California, well, there are high schools and junior high schools that are occasionally shut down because of these terrible, sometimes violent, black and Hispanic confrontations that are essentially racial rivalries that have nothing to do with whites. Likewise, at the same time, there are prison blocks in Texas and in California that are in a constant state of lockdown. That is to say, the inmates are kept forcibly in their cells and never allowed to go into public areas. And the reason is, whenever they are relieved from lockdown and when the prisoners are allowed to mix with each other, there are black and Hispanic race riots. They are at each other's throats immediately. Racial separation, which, in fact, the prisoners would be happy to have, and in fact, which prisoners often demand. That would solve the problem, of course, but no one dares propose it. And as far as black and Hispanic relations are concerned, I was particularly interested to read the remarks of the president of a black homeowners association in southern Los Angeles when she was explaining why she didn't want Mexicans to move into her neighborhood. And as she put it to reporters, she said, it's a different culture, a different breed of people. They don't have the same values.
This is reality, though.
You can't get together.
Like, I agree
it's
with
like
everything
mixing oil and water.
Right, like, and,
Well,
and bitch, you're right.
I
They don't
sympathize
have the
100%
same
with
values.
that
They have
black
better
lady.
values than your white ass.
And needless to say, and it may be mean-spirited to say this,
Mexicans don't bother
back
no
when
goddamn
those
body.
long forgotten whites
said
moved
that about
out,
Mexicans.
when blacks moved in,
Really?
I think it's likely
I
that
can't
they
even
said
believe
similar
that.
things about blacks. What happens, on the other
All right.
hand, when Asians
What?
arrive in large
You
numbers?
said
Shit
that
is-
Baltimore has those affluent black neighborhoods where all the. Do you think they want Mexicans and white people moving in there? No, because it's an affluent black neighborhood,
Okay, yeah,
and the
that-
owner of the homeowners
Okay.
association can say what she want to say. We don't want Mexicans in our neighborhood because we
I mean,
have
if
26
she-
black
all,
families here.
all I'm saying is if she's a part of the homeowners association,
He
can't-
just said the president. She was the president of a black homeowners association, and she gave a reason
Yeah,
why
but-
she don't
but
want Mexicans moving there.
Just by like the real estate laws, you can't really say like, you know what I mean. You can't.
Oh
turn
yeah,
somebody
you
down for
can.
that.
You really can't turn nobody down for that
But
shit.
I've
you
never
could try it.
I've never heard anybody say that. Like I'm not okay. Now that you say it like that, I'm like okay.
Because
but
we
even
don't
like,
control a lot of
But
shit.
that's the thing. Like even like the black neighborhoods like in Bowie, like is not really a lot. It's only really just like black people. But the few people that are there that aren't black, the black people don't treat them bad.
The few people, and y'all niggas better stay in y'all spot. Because if you
Yeah.
get out of hand, all the rest of the black people get y'all the fuck out of here. Because we run this shit. And once you run your own shit, you can regulate it like that.
I mean, I will say this gonna sound fucked up, but it's just like out here, it's like if like you have one Spanish store out here, that's where all the Spanish people are gonna hang out.
And
But
that's
it's
how
like,
they know it.
So I get it, but I don't know. For me personally, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck who I live near, as long as it's not like all.
Well, you do give a fuck then.
I mean, but even I'm not bothered by it. I've done it for how many years? I mean, I hated the neighborhood that I lived in, but like.
I don't like Jordan Taylor, but I like that I agree with about 90% of what he says.
And again, now that you said she's like a part of the homeowners, and if it's an affluent area, and you know it's a black community,
And
there's
they're
not
trying
a lot
to
of black
preserve,
communities,
and they're
right.
trying to preserve
I
their
get
property
it, but
value.
At first, I thought you were saying that's like just a white person, like, nah, I don't
No.
want them moving over here, like.
Nah, you
'Cause I
gotta
wouldn't say that,
listen
yo.
to
Like
him.
Mexicans work hard, yo, and they.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna say they get discriminated against as much as black people, but as soon as somebody sees a Hispanic person, just like watch the show we were watching, and the boy's name was Alfonso. He wasn't even Hispanic, and he's like, yeah, you want to call your abuelo?
Your boy, like
Like,
dude,
yo,
I'm Asian.
And I
nigga,
mean,
what the
even
fuck?
me, like I got pulled over, and at first thing the dude asked me, "Are you Mexican?" No, I'm not, but does it matter? So it's like, yo, they get it bad too, but definitely black people get the short end of the stick when it comes to like housing and education and everything else. Like,
Mhm.
but I respect the Hispanics for like, you know, they come over here, they band together, they send their money back home, you know, they save up,
And they
then
don't
go
give a
get their own
fuck.
shit.
And I agree with that. They give a fuck if they don't want you, if you don't want them in your neighborhood. They gonna make their own neighborhood.
They're gonna make their own, yeah.
They don't
And
give a fuck.
and that's what I said. Like it, just like Baltimore, the white people, black people, Spanish people from Baltimore, they crazy as hell. But like the Spanish people out here, they be minding their business. I'm sorry, Hispanic, not Spanish. That's the politically correct term. They just mind their business. It's dumb people everywhere, but it's just like they definitely get discriminated against. Like I could only imagine that every time you go somewhere, somebody calling you goddamn Maria and Jose, and they trying to lock you up.
Well,
They think you're an illegal immigrant.
And that's why they're smarter than us. Because if you're getting discriminated against, then build your own shit where you don't get
And that's what I'm
discriminated
saying.
against.
They get together and they stay together. And
Yep.
them motherfuckers will share clothes and food, cook together, eat together, all of that, and then be done with it.
Yep. You can't discriminate against nobody if it's just us. You gonna hate on yourself.
And how many times do you see like the women, they come over here And normally the women are the person, the person that speak the English should do the translate and say they're not. The wife come over here, she home all day.
Spanish guy with the blue car across the street.
He don't speak no English.
But it's 3 or 4 of them in there.
And the women speak better English than they do because the women stay home. They with the kids or cleaning, cooking, going to school, learning English, and the dudes are out working. And I'm not trying to be like, stereotypical or, whatever, but a lot of them come over here and do construction and they be getting that good ass construction money. And then the woman be at home.
And that's what those guys do. You see them all going to work early in the mornings.
Early in the morning, yeah.
3 grown ass men in one fucking house.
Got their food out for breakfast, and then they got their lunch pack that their wife done sent them.
In a couple years, everybody who live in that house can go buy their own house.
Yep. And the family house be paid off, but y'all just had that shit. So that's why I said, like, I definitely understand where she's coming from. I'm not mad at her at all. But if it's one group of people I fuck with outside of black people, it's Hispanics and specifically Mexicans.
Yeah, Jordan Taylor, he just tell it like it is, man. Especially from the white perspective, he tells you how the average white person feels. Yeah.
That other young white dude, I watched this video, and you watch him all the time.
Are you talking about with the little high pitched voice?
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
He has a channel on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro. I listen to him a lot.
I liked him.
But this the old head dude. Like, he just tell it like an old white American man say that shit. Yo, when niggas move in our neighborhood, we move out. If white people got all the money in the world, you think they gonna move into a neighborhood where it's all black people? Like, no, they don't like doing like that. They choose to segregate themselves. It's selective segregation for them, and they rather have their own schools, their own markets, their own communities, their own banks, their own neighborhoods.
It's so weird for me though, because like I had a white mother growing up, but it's different because her kids are still black, you know what I mean? And like the man she dated was black, and like my siblings, because I had a relationship with my dad's kids outside of my mom, they're not mixed at all. They don't have
but your mom has sisters, right?
Yeah.
Any of your aunts have...
Let me get to my point. That's what I was about to say. So my mom, we always lived in black neighborhoods for the most part. I moved into a white neighborhood for the first time. Like, before I moved in with you, the place I was living, that was the first time I lived, like, in a white neighborhood. But when I went to my aunt's house, there was only one black family in the whole, not in the whole complex, but in her whole entire little, like, it's like a little circle in her whole little court. Only one black family. And she's been there as long as I've been alive. So, like, it definitely was weird growing up because you get my mom and we're just, like, she didn't have any white friends either. Like, all my mom's friends were black. Like, I don't know. Her boyfriend, she's never been with a white man. So I've always, like, she was white, but I've always been around black people. And then I go to my aunt's house and it's white. But, like, when I was a kid, like a young kid, I didn't see, like, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I didn't see color, Like, kids don't see color. Kids don't see, differences and shit. I didn't care whether somebody was a Muslim or a Christian or white or black or straight or gay. Like, I didn't see that shit when I was a young kid. Now, once I was old enough, like I said, the first time that somebody called my mom a nigga lover with the ER on the end, I think that's when I started to see it. And it was in a nicer area like that with all white people, so yeah. But, I don't know, I've had it both ways. Like, my aunts, they've always lived in white-ass neighborhoods. And then, my dad, there's, like, no white people in his neighborhood. And the same thing with my mom. So, I don't know, I've had it both ways. But, I have to say that I don't really feel any less comfortable regardless of whether I'm around white people or black people. I don't care. Like, a white person or a black person can come up in your house and steal your shit or do anything to you. So it's just like,
I don't feel, the only time I feel uncomfortable if I'm the only black person in a large group of white people. If it's like 5 or 6 white people and I'm the only black person, I feel uncomfortable.
Well, and then it's like when you walk in, like when you're already there, but then when you walk into a room and then it's like you get the stares. And people, it is wrong to assume, but it's not wrong to assume because when you know, like this shit has been going on for so long that sometimes somebody can say something that just gives themselves away.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like the stares we get out here. It's like, damn, have y'all never seen a black person before? I know y'all seen a mixed person at least. God damn. Like,
Ain't that shit, yeah.
Well, the effect is more ambiguous. Some North Asians commit fewer crimes than whites. They do better in school, they make more money. On the other hand, there are other Asian groups, the Hmong of Cambodia, 60% of whom are on welfare. However, this is a point that I wish to emphasize. It doesn't matter if Chinese and Japanese build societies that are in some respects objectively superior to those built by Europeans. It matters only that they're different. When large numbers of North Asian immigrants moved into Monterey Park, California, this is a rather famous test case of a population changing into North Asians. Whites didn't leave Monterey Park because the newcomers were rioting or opening crack houses or mugging people. No. They moved out because Monterey Park, in countless ways, ceased to be the city that they were born in or that they had moved to. They didn't care that these North Asians probably had an average IQ of 105, that they were probably more law-abiding than the older population, that they probably were more responsible in many respects. The point is, whites saw their way of life melting away beneath their feet, and they moved away in the hope of finding it someplace else. Once again, it's really not the particulars that matter. It's
And that's the thing. I'm not white, so I don't really know. I just feel like white people like a homogenous society where they are the norm. When they walk around, they want to see everybody looking like them. They want everybody to speak like them.
Europe. I mean, well, there are a lot of.
But and this
black
is
people
how
and
he keeps it.
Africans in
When you
Europe,
listen
too.
to what white Americans say, our country, my land, our country, they really think this is theirs. They don't feel like
That's what
the
I was gonna
fact
say.
that they.
Like, I question the fact, like, is it even our land?
They feel like they conquered this shit. They came over here. They were the smartest and the strongest, and it proves it because we run this shit now. So it proves we are smarter and stronger than everybody, smarter than the Indians, smarter than the Africans, and so now this is our land because we took it by force, and they just want that shit to stay that way. And he constantly says, my, our land, our country, our neighborhoods.
Guess what?
What?
I'm guessing that came from her.
Mm-hmm. Gotta watch what you touch.
But yeah, I don't.
And this is how the average white person thinks.
Again, it's nobody's land but the fucking natives. And then at that, it's like, it is our land, but it's like, yo, some of us probably, our ancestors probably were from here, but some of us, our ancestors, and I'm not talking about like great grandmoms, but you know what I mean, like on and on and on. Like,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of us, our ancestors probably weren't from here, but I feel like a lot of us were already here. So it's just like, it's hard to tell, but either way, that shit is more our land than it's y'all land. I guess it's only half my land. Let me go wash my hands. You don't get 40 acres, you get 20.
I'm sure, yeah. But yeah, when it comes to how white people view their position in America, and these are some old lectures that Jordan is giving right here. Like, these are from the late 90s, early 2000s, and it's like, even then, white America feels like they're losing a grip on their conquered land, on their prized possession of the Americas. And once again, Donald Trump showed that, you know, like, yo, we want our country back. Let's make America great again. Let's take it back to the ideals of our forefathers. This is not what they had in mind. And so, I don't know. Like, I agree with Jordan Peterson. People, this is how people think. He's telling you how white people think, and I agree with you. I agree that that's how white people feel about themselves. It's how they feel about their country. It's how they feel about the way they want and choose to live. He's not telling you anything that he personally doesn't agree with or personally have a stake in the ideologies of. And so this is the world he wants to see, that is an ideal world for what he sees for his specific racial group, because they are the ruling group, they are the conquering and colonizing group, and he doesn't see why they are losing so much ground and losing so much power, and they're predicting themselves to become a minority in the next quarter century or half a century. So, and once again, they make these predictions 25, 50, 75 years out. And this is something that other races, well, most groups do this, except black people. Black people don't give a fuck where they're going to be in 10 years from now.
And you just gonna let that shit happen.
You know?
Want to see that shit fail.
But white people, they be trying to predict this shit like fucking 75 years into the future. Like, where will we be 75 years from now? You know, and more people need to try to forecast their futures that far ahead. Yeah. That's what?
Or this girl, they showed like what the average American would look like 20, 30 years from now.
Brown and kinky hair?
Well, no, not necessarily. Like, of course you would still have black people, but he was saying more so like the white people would turn into mixed people and, you know, just all different mixes and stuff, but basically like the white will be gone. So the girl that they showed, her hair was, I have these two different textures of hair.
I mean, when you watch commercials right now and you see a person who's not white, they're not really black either, and these are the faces like you. Not just make it, but these are the faces they want to see more and more on TV.
I am still black.
I'm saying, babe, color wise, like, yeah, they won't, they barely show white, like all white people, but they really don't show you like all dark.
Like, they like the tan.
And that's what,
and then even like I agree, like when they show a black woman on TV, like it's very rare that it's like a
dark black woman
no,
with
no. Let me finish. It's very rare that it's like a Leslie or
Leslie.
What's her name? Leslie, the tall lady.
Oh, I know.
She's not as attractive on a European standard. It's very rare that they're gonna show somebody like her, versus if they're gonna show somebody dark skinned, it's gonna be a Tika Sumpter, Kelly Rowland. You know what I mean? Perfect look. And I mean, don't get me wrong, they get the short end of the stick as well. But it's like when they do show dark skinned women, a lot of times they have European features, but then again, you can't really say that because look at Ethiopians and Somalians, and they have, you know, those smaller features too. So it goes both ways. But I do agree, like, if you're not if you don't look a certain way,
yeah. In our commercials, all our advertisements, when I walk through the mall and looking at like yeah, you're looking at like jewelry stores advertising wedding rings and engagement rings. It's not like black people or white people. It's like this merger of, you know, brown and tan people. Yeah, or it's a lot of mixed couples where you see a black guy proposing to a white woman and things like that. So
I've been seeing a lot of that.
So those commercials are more are heavily used for advertisements.
I don't even mind it. Like, you know, of course, as a black person, you want to see black stuff.
Yeah, but this is...
And when black stuff, like, if more black stuff becomes the norm to the point that we're satisfied, I don't mind the merger of the two, because it's like, I don't, like, you know what I mean? We could get to a point where it is just a fucking human race.
Yeah.
But it's not there yet. But definitely, like, the girl they showed, she was my skin color. And I don't think she, you know, she probably was only but 20% black. She was more like, she was white, Spanish, black. She was just a whole melting pot, basically a Hispanic, you know, because the Hispanics be having a little bit of black in them too. So, but she had, her hair was a little bit finer than mine, but curly ass hair, freckles, green eyes, and about my skin color. And they said the average, like all the white people, that's how they're going to look. It's not going to be, they're not going to be white anymore.
And this is the fear of...
Ain't that the crazy thing, though? Like, if you're white, right? You're white. Like, people always like, oh, you're mixed. But the thing about it is, like, unless I go reproduce with a white person, my kids no matter who I reproduce with, that white is getting washed out, if that makes sense.
And that's the fear of like real white people is genetic annihilation, because white skin is a recessive gene and anybody can breed out the white of a white person in just a couple of generations. 2-3 generations, your whiteness can be gone.
If we had a kid and then they had a kid, the kid
With-
wouldn't be white no more. As long as they reproduce with a black person.
But especially a dark skinned black person, that shit'd be wiped out. Easy.
But it's not about skin color though. Because that's what I'm saying. If we had a kid, I mean, they obviously wouldn't be 75%, because I'm sure you're not 100% anything either, but you get my gist, they would be 75% black.
Yeah.
So then, they reproduce with a black person.
That's what I'm saying. But the whitest of white people, if a white lady, no matter if she produced with anybody else, her kid is gonna not look white, yo.
My nephew is your color.
Yeah.
He lives in Georgia. He's in the sun, but he's your color.
And the ultimate fear of the black seed is we have the most melanin. That means we can make the most change. Asians, yeah, a white lady and an Asian dude get together. Their kid is not gonna look white and it's not gonna look Asian, but they're gonna be very fair skinned.
They're gonna look like one of those like white Japanese.
Yeah, very very fair skinned person. But soon as you get with a black person, yo, like our genome is so fucking strong, yo. Like we gonna let you know you brown, bitch. You got that brown in you now.
And even with being mixed, like I'm mixed and I got my mom's whole face and everything, but I look black and she doesn't.
Yep.
Like she just doesn't. I don't have my dad has a real big nose. I don't have a big nose like him, but my mom has one of those more like pointy noses. I don't have that shit. She has blue eyes. I have his brown eyes. Like she got straight ass hair. I got curly ass hair. So it's just like I did get her skin color and I'm light, but as far as like facial features, like I have a wider nose. I have the brown eyes. I have the curly hair. Like dark hair. My mom has light hair. I got dark hair.
That's the dominant and recessive genes. Just like my cousins, they got big lips and wide noses and kinky hair. I don't know, like that brown germ, that shit just strong as shit, yo.
It really is.
That shit will overpower. I say that's why they fear that black seed, yo. Fear that shit. They don't want no dark ass nigga with no white woman, cause man, they about to wash your race out, boy. Them babies gonna be brown as shit, you know. And then if a brown baby like black people, then there you go, you're done right there. Now you're black. And you look back at like you say, your grandma white as shit, and you look at your great grandkids, and they niggas like, oh shit, what
That's
happened?
so funny, I know, looking at pictures like that.
And that's what they don't want. This is what real white people, they don't want to look at their great grandkids and be like, oh damn, y'all black now. They want white people to stay around, and I don't blame them. White people shouldn't be wiped out of existence, and if they have to figure out ways to keep white people around,
thing, like if okay, look at it like this, right? How many of my cousins is it? All of my white cousins are with white people, except for my youngest cousin Cody. He's with an Asian girl, and she's still like high yellow. Like she's not darker like a Filipino. She's still like light bright like me. So like when they have a baby, their baby will be mixed. But beyond me and my brothers, the mixed kids, all my white cousins, they're with white people. So it's like I don't think that all of our white genes or whatever are gonna be knocked out. I mean, yeah, out of me and my kids, because I mean I just like black men, whatever, it is what it is. But like I don't think it means that all white people are gonna be extinct, because I look at how many of them are with white people versus us that are with black people. Like my brother got 2 kids, he's not having no more kids. I'm not gonna have more than 1 or 2 kids. And then my other brother, I don't know about him.
yeah, you gotta look globally though. This is a trend.
It is,
and white people only make up 10% of the global population as it is. Like white people, there's not a lot of white people around the world, period. And so even if they're only 10% of the human race, and 15, like if 9% of that is starting to interbreed, then you're like, they have a fear of being wiped out. It's like, yo, we can't
tell
keep
your kids to reproduce. Like I said, I wouldn't be mad at my family if they said, hey, We want to keep having babies because we feel like we're gonna get wiped out. Do you?
I know. Yeah.
And I feel like black people gonna be wiped out, so I'm gonna be over here having these black babies.
I used to work with this one white dude, and not. I don't feel like he was consciously racist, because most white people just have inherent racism built into them just because they're white and living in a white country. But he wasn't like consciously racist. But he told me straight, he was like, yeah, I don't want. He got 3 daughters. He's like, I don't want my daughters dating outside their race. You know, if my daughter brings home a boyfriend, I want him to be white. And I get that shit, you know, because if I had a daughter and she brought a boyfriend, I want that nigga to be black. Yo, like, fuck that, you know. I want my daughter to bring home a white guy, and I'm not racist either, you know. But that would be my preference.
Now, let's also say that if she brought home a white man and he was a good guy and she was happy, we're going to accept whatever she likes.
It is what it is.
Right.
But my preference would be for my children to be with their own kind. And that don't make me racist, and that don't make white people racist when they say, I'd just rather not date outside my race. Hey, bro, I get it. I get it. No problem. And that's why that's why I agree with a lot of what Jared Taylor says. Like, I understand you, bro. Coming from a completely white male American perspective, I see what you mean, bro. Because if I was a white male and my ancestors came over here and killed all the Indians and enslaved all the Africans and control all the major institutions in this country, I'll be proud of that shit too.
And then people will start to wake up and they angry.
I say, this is my country.
But, okay, so what about a mixed person?
Irreversible racial change that people object to.
Should mixed people just stay with mixed people? Or, like, does it matter?
Hey, man, I don't know. Like, that is some hard questions right there when you're biracial and you are of descent from the 2 major racial groups that don't like each other, or not like each other, but have the most historical, like, schism between the 2 groups. I can't even imagine what it's like to be half black and half white and trying to navigate through a racist ass world, yo.
It's so hard because it's like you got one side that's like totally just did some fucked up shit in history, and then you got another side that you just know nothing about. Like, I can totally tell you everything about my white side, up to like at least my great grandmother, who I didn't even meet. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I can't tell you anything about my black side. Like, it's so disappointing just to tell people like, oh, I'm black, and they're like, oh, but what are you? Like, black? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, black is a fucking color. What is black? I don't fucking know.
Exactly.
So it's like, it is confusing, and then like I said, I've never been treated badly by my white family, so it was like the first time I went into the world and like somebody called me the N-word and called my mama the N-word lover. Like, that shit was like, and I was, like I said, I was so young. Like, that shit stuck with me for life. It just was like, yo, so it's like, when I make accomplishments, it's always going to be people that say, like, oh, that shit don't count for it. White people never are going to say my shit counts for white history. And then I got black people who are like, oh, well, she's only half black, so her shit don't count for black history either. So it's like, so what do my shit count for? I'm just in my own category, huh? Like,
Rachel Dozer.
Don't play. I actually got a black daddy. I have to burn my hair.
I'm all the way black.
Yeah.
You going down?
No, I was grabbing some water. You going?
Yeah, I'll try to get a word out the kitchen before I lay it on the couch and see if we gotta bring some up out the basement.
There is one in there. It's just tucked in there.
Oh, well, the next time we shop, we definitely need to bring waters too.
Yeah, I really want to just buy that reverse filter, and I'm thinking about just investing in it.
Yeah. Because Larry got theirs on the door. Like, that's why he said he got that fridge, because of the filter that's on that refrigerator.
Well, you can get it for the sink, but I don't know, like, what's the process.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put one on the sink. Definitely save on plastic bottles and shit.
The last time I looked at it was $80, but that was a few years ago, and then now they're more popular, so it's probably like $60
Yeah,
now.
probably cheaper than
Elizabeth Covington. Why your own kind? Ain't we all human? Love knows no color. I mean, I get that. Like, I really get that. And if that's how you feel, I commend you for having a good heart. But honestly, can't say you don't really see color because it's just the world that we live in. Like, I don't know if you're here in America, you might be somewhere else where it's different, but people definitely see color here. And even for somebody who's mixed like me, like, I never had an option on my license or anything to put that I was, you know, multiracial. So I always had to put that I was black. And as soon as they run my ID and see that it's African American, or they get up to me and they hear me speak, and they think that I'm Hispanic or I'm black, and I'm speaking of cops or just people in general, you know, their whole energy changes. Like, recently we were in the store, and this older white lady waited on these people in front of us. She was so nice to them. And then we get up to the register, and she looks at Travis once, and her whole energy changed, and she was staying the whole transaction. And we spoke and everything. Good morning, how are you? Good morning. So you can easily see it, like, you know what I mean?
And then the people behind the shit is like, thank you for waiting.
That's what I'm
Like,
saying.
I was taking too long, or like what? Lady,
Or
what
moving
is,
too quick, I guess.
yeah, what is wrong with you? Thanks for waiting. Oh, cause I put my shit on the cart or something. Like, bitch, calm the fuck down. You at work.
Right.
It's your job, bitch.
And she was trying to be smart, taking long to wipe down the belt. So again, I mean, we live in a place where people are really not that intellectual. I've lived in much, much smarter places with smarter people. So, you know, they just, it's everywhere you go, though. You know what I mean? Even the most intellectual people. So it's like, again, nobody hates white people. I'm half white. I love my mom and my family.
Yeah, in my last major relationship, I dated a white person, so I mean,
But-
I'm not racist
But
at all.
it's just like, but you can't say that you don't see color. Like, you might not see color. I get it. I don't see color.
They're
either.
not saying they don't see color. She said that love knows no color, and I get that. You don't have to be of the same race to love somebody, but at
No, but she said, "Why your own kind? Aren't we all human?" And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
we're
all human.
But at the same time, that's just not how the world sees it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I totally, like, I'm glad that's your logic, because a lot of people don't think like that.
Yeah,
Like,
it's just a choice.
This
It's a choice just like anything else in this world, yo. You know what I'm saying? Some people think abortions are cool. Some people don't think abortions are cool. Some people think we should all pay taxes. Some people think we shouldn't pay taxes. Some people think we should have free health care, and some people think we should pay more for health care. Some people rather date in their race, and some people rather date everybody but a member of their race. It's all opinions and
it's fine. No matter what you do, as long as you're not hurting anybody or hurting yourself.
Yeah, one of my good friends who live up here, like, this motherfucker, he won't date a black girl. Like, this motherfucker loves some Spanish girls and white girls, but that motherfucker, he don't ever talk about a black woman. And he a black guy, but hey, that's his preference. You know what I'm saying? He has kids with two different women. Neither one of them are black. You know, and he's a dark skinned black dude, and his preference are everything except black women. And it just is what it is. Like you say, love knows no color. But me, in my own opinion, in my preference, I would rather be with a person of color. You know.
Elizabeth says, "I'm surrounded by racists. I'm mixed as well. Mixed race as well. Separation of races has hurt us and never helped us."
I don't know.
I don't know.
Most ethnic groups are doing just fine right now, being separate. Like you say, the last time we drove through New York, you know, you go through this whole subsection of Chinatown for like 3 or 4 blocks. All the buildings, all the markets, all the stores, all the shops, all the people are Asian. Then you get to the Spanish part of town. Then you get to the black.
Asian, Jewish, then Spanish.
Yeah, Asian, Jewish, and Spanish. But then those people work fine and live fine next to each other because they are aware they have their own communities, and their communities work together. The Jewish community can work in hand with the Asian community, and the Asian community can work in hand with the Spanish community. And they respect each other because they have their own. And if they choose to mingle and date and do business, okay. But at least they have their own, their home front and their baseline. And black people refuse to do that.
But it's also hard too.
Yeah, because
just
we're always at the bottom of the barrel.
That's what I'm saying. It would be great to erase the lines they created for us. Like Elizabeth, when I say I feel you, sis, I feel you. But I definitely, see it on the other side of the spectrum too, where like the black lady when she went with her white husband to go apply for a house for a home loan.
And just because they was trying to sell their house, and they came in to get the house appraised, and it was appraised so much lower than some of the houses their neighbors. They were like almost $100,000 lower in value than their neighbors. And then the husband and wife were like, you know what? Let's get a different appraiser. And they took out all the pictures of the black lady. It's a black lady and her white husband. They took out anything that would make you think a black person lived there. And the next appraisal was like $87,000 more. Like I say, damn near $100,000 more value they had to their house just because a black person didn't live there. Or it appeared that no black person lived there. And this is America. This is America. This is the world we live in. Where you're devalued.
Where the white lady says, she called me racist. I don't dislike black people. I just don't like when people act a certain kind of way. Like, okay, we know what that means.
Yeah,
you don't like ratchet black people because you think the only people that can be ratchet are black. Like there aren't ratchet white and Hispanic and everything else. Asians. Shit, them Canadian Asians, they ratchet.
Oh my God, they the worst.
They are the worst. Yes. Oh my goodness.
Them motherfuckers don't give a fuck. Ain't gonna lie.
They put the R in ratchets.
And lie with a straight face.
I swear.
Okay, you know why?
Just gonna kill your mama and sleep good at night.
They got that high IQ, yo. They think they smarter than the white Americans, yo.
One thing about it, white Americans are some goddamn detectives. They gonna find your ass.
Oh, they gonna get you, nigga.
That's one thing I respect about America. I don't fuck with the government, yo, for the most part. But like, yo, if they wanna find you, they will find you. If you are in Saudi Arabia, they're gonna find you.
Oh,
they gonna call up their connect out there to find your ass. Americans don't play.
Can't hide from these motherfuckers. Alright, how long? Oh, damn. An hour and a half? What time is it?
12:40.
I might get out of there at 1 o'clock, go back to sleep. I gotta go to work in the morning. Just listen to like another 5 or 10 minutes of this real quick.
I think one very significant sign of the times is that's what's happening on college campuses today. American young people have been reared in what is probably the most relentless and rigorous anti-racialist environment in the history of the world. They've been taught over and over and over again that everyone is beautiful, that distinctions do not matter, diversity is wonderful, race is trivial. And yet, what do they do when they arrive on campus? They sort themselves out very obviously according to race. They segregate themselves in social clubs, in ethnic dormitories, and in all kinds of student group activities that are defined by race. Race matters. And all the young that society can do about it doesn't change this. Well, what will this projected demographic change, what will it be like on the national level? Well, that's a little bit harder to say. It's not like predicting what will happen when a neighborhood or a school changes, because we haven't yet had a nation with a non-white majority. But a nation that still has a white majority has managed to pass laws and regulations already that, through affirmative action and quotas, discriminate against whites. Many non-whites have now genuinely convinced themselves that this is what equal treatment requires. I think that we can be sure that when non-whites become majority, if that happens, they will certainly think of other discriminatory measures that they will think equality and equal treatment requires. Besides that, what sort of foreign policy would a non-white America have? Nobody ever thinks about this. What would a non-white America do or not do with its nuclear weapons? What sort of government would we have? In the long term, I'm really not certain that a non-white America would even maintain democracy or the rule of law. let's be frank about this. The record of non-white countries has not been encouraging in this respect. And even if our forms of government survive, what sort of fanciful readings of the Constitution is the Supreme Court, with people like Lanny Guinier on it, going to find? What sort of readings are they going to find in our Constitution? Well, I suspect that in non-white America, the First Amendment would disappear just as the 10th Amendment has. And I suspect that dissent from racial orthodoxy would constitute a criminal offense, and that it would be simply impossible to hold a meeting of this kind. But to return, if I may, to the present, there is not a drop of public sympathy for the whites who are being displaced today by non-whites. We're all supposed to feel, in fact, morally superior to these poor, bigoted boobs who escape to the suburbs when the neighborhood turns black or when Mexicans move in. But the fact of the matter is, it's only certain people who have to face that kind of choice. People with money, the best-educated people, never even have to make a decision of that kind. In fact, as someone far cleverer than I once put it, the purpose of a college education in the United States today is to give you the right attitude towards minorities and the means to live as far away from them as possible. You're right to applaud, but I wish I could claim that witticism as my own. But this orthodoxy about racial integration has therefore developed its own set of utterly transparent hypocrisies. Just about every elected official in the United States, every talking head, every self-righteous editorial writer in the country has chanted this mantra of integration so many times that he can repeat it in his sleep. But where do these people live? And where do their children go to school? Whom do they invite to their dinner parties? Whom do they marry? And whom do they urge their children to marry? No, they don't actually go live and go to school and socialize with those marvelous black people and those marvelous Mexicans and Nigerians and Pakistanis. No, integration is a splendid thing. It is so splendid that they insist that others should enjoy its benefits while they forego them themselves. So this is the smelly little consensus that our elites have quietly arrived at. Namely, integration is our goal, but not for me or my friends or my children. And in fact, these self-righteous and college-educated, properly socialized folks have come up with a whole set of mental exercises for the working class people who don't have the money to send their children to private school and who don't live in exclusive suburbs. The first exercise, of course, is to believe that aliens and strangers, they're bearers of a very special gift. It's called diversity. We're not being displaced, we're being enriched, we're being strengthened. Of course, the idea that racial diversity is a strength is so obviously stupid that only very intelligent people could have come up with it. There's not one multiracial anything in the United States that doesn't suffer from racial friction of some kind. In fact, our country has established this huge, gigantic, clanking mechanism of EEO officers and racial watchdog groups and outreach committees and you name it, all of these mechanisms to regulate and try to control racial diversity, something that was supposed to be a great strength, but turns out to be exceedingly volatile and difficult and dangerous and has to be controlled and watched and supervised all the time. In fact, people are so exhausted by this alleged source of strength that they run away from it the first chance they get. And that's why every group in the United States that's not yet controlled by the United States government tends to be racially homogeneous. Private parties, families, clubs, churches. When people get out of the arena in which government makes the rules and are allowed to make their own rules, they go their separate ways. Nothing, therefore, could be more obvious. Diversity of race or tribe or language or religion, these are the main reasons that people all around the world are at each other's throats. Just pick up any newspaper and you'll see that diversity, at least in the same territory, is not a source of strength, it's a source of strife. Another rather hilarious idea is somehow that a diverse population is going to be a great advantage for business or world trade. Well, of course, 99.9% of the things that we buy have nothing whatsoever to do with ethnicity or race or religion. No one cares who made your shoes or who assembled your computer. At the same time, contrary to what this diversity myth would suggest, it doesn't take an Irishman to sell things to the Irish. The world's most successful exporting nations today are China, Korea, Taiwan, Japan. These places have never heard of diversity. The fact is, American companies and American CEOs are full of all this hot air blather about how their diverse workforce that looks like America is just going to whip everybody in sight. Well, they're being whipped in their own markets by companies with workforces that look like Yokohama. At the same time, people appear to be so dazed by this incomprehensible doctrine of diversity being strength that they don't seem to notice that it's apparently only whites who suffer from this strange paralysis of homogeneity and have to be gingered up all the time with doses of diversity. I mean, after all, no one is suggesting that Howard University, which is overwhelmingly black, should practice diversity by recruiting Hispanics and Asians. And no one is suggesting that Mexico should launch an immigration policy that will reduce Mexicans or Hispanics to a minority in a few decades. No one is suggesting that. But if diversity is good for America, if diversity is good for every college campus, why isn't it good for Howard University? And why isn't it good for Mexico or Korea or China? Let's be consistent here. Of course, if white Americans, especially poor white Americans, were pouring across the border into Mexico by millions, demanding that their children be educated in English, insisting on welfare, demanding voting rights for aliens, celebrating the 4th of July rather than Cinco de Mayo, even talking about tearing down statues of Santa Ana, could anyone trick the Mexicans into thinking that this was cultural enrichment? The Mexicans have far more sense than that. They would recognize an invasion when they saw it. I think they'd open fire, for goodness sake. So this whole racial diversity issue, it's strictly a one-way street. Only whites, apparently, are ever expected to practice it or benefit from it. And then the ultimate insult is to ask whites to celebrate diversity. Well, what is this other than asking whites to celebrate their own capitulation, to rejoice in their dwindling number and their dwindling influence? And the amazing thing about it is the number of whites who seem to have been persuaded at least to go through the motion of doing this. It's an astonishing thing. And for just how long are we supposed to go on cheering our own dispossession? Until whites are 49% of the population? Until they're 25% of the population? At that point, would it be legitimate for whites to say, well, gosh, maybe we don't like this? Or are we supposed to go on singing and dancing over our own graves until we disappear completely? Well, this same process of demographic change is going on in Europe, Australia, Canada, New Zealand. It's going on all around the world, and the racial picture is always the same. Whites have built successful, desirable societies. The most successful and desirable really in the history of the world. And desperate people from non-white societies want very, very badly to live in them. And they're willing to risk nearly everything, sometimes even life itself, to come benefit from these societies that whites have built. And it's perfectly natural that they should do so. They want a better life for themselves and for their children. But what it means is that whites face a unique crisis. Whites are only about 8% of the world's population. They're only having about 4% of the world's babies. And if they let non-whites continue to move into their countries, they'll simply be pushed aside. If whites do nothing, they'll be swept away. And no other racial group faces this prospect because the movement is always one way. Actually, of course, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, those places would face a similar crisis if they permitted themselves to be governed by the same liberal foolishness that we permit to govern us. There are millions of Bangladeshis, of Malays, of Iraqis who would love to move to Japan for exactly the same reasons why Mexicans want to move to the United States. The Japanese, of course, are having none of it. They have this quaint notion that they like Japan the way it is. They want it to stay Japanese. And they realize that a few million Bangladeshis later, Osaka would no longer be part of Japan. So to repeat, whites and North Asians build these successful societies that other races have not built. And that is why non-whites want to come. Nicaraguans and Haitians don't come to the United States out of this generous motive, eager to share the gifts of diversity with poor white people about to choke to death on their own homogeneity. No, they come because their societies don't work and they know that life would be better in the United States. Of course, if Europeans had turned the entire continent of North America into a giant pest hole, nobody would want to come. And if nobody were coming, there'd be no reason to come up with all of these strange reasons why they had a right to come, or why whites were actually benefiting from being outnumbered and pushed aside by people unlike themselves. The same process, the same migratory dynamic is at work on a smaller scale. In the United States, it may be blunt to say this, but I don't see how it can be denied. Virtually every desirable place to live or work or go to school is desirable because whites made it that way. Non-whites want to enjoy the benefits that whites have made, and that is why it is always non-whites pushing their way into white institutions or white neighborhoods or white schools. And that's why all of these phony battles of exclusion or tolerance or justice or racism, they're always played out on white territory, and whites are always the defendants, always in the dock, always the ones being accused. The fact is, whites are simply not clamoring to get into Howard University or to live in South Central LA or move to Guatemala. But I can assure you that if there was something rare and wonderful and valuable in those places, and that the non-whites who were there had created those rare and valuable things, I can promise you they wouldn't want to let us in. Of course, the sad thing is that generally speaking, once non-whites have gotten their way and have moved in large numbers into these desirable white institutions and neighborhoods, those institutions and neighborhoods lose the very qualities that attracted them in the first place. Whites leave, and we're right back where we started. For the most part, blacks and third world immigrants recreate in their new locations very much a simulacrum of the places they left behind, with all the shortcomings that persuaded them to leave in the first place. Now, so far, although I've been perhaps more blunt and outspoken about it, I really haven't said anything that everyone in America at some level doesn't already know. No school or neighborhood is improved by going from white to black or Hispanic. And whites generally just don't stick around to see whether or not just this time, just this once, maybe water's going to run uphill. Well, what is the message of all of this white flight? What does it mean?
White flight.
It means, quite simply, that the deepest underlying assumptions about race that have directed American policies the last 30, 40, or 50 years, this deep assumption is wrong. The theory, and it's not overstated, but the theory is that if we work at it hard enough, if we just keep hammering away at it, we can build a society in which race can be made not to matter. Well, this was something that many people thought was a noble and idealistic thing. I give them credit for that. But it was based on a misreading of human nature. Race simply does matter. It is a brute biological fact, and wishing simply won't make it go away. The idea of trying to build a society where race can be made not to matter reminds me of a different idea that a lot of people thought was noble and idealistic and worth fighting for, and that also failed miserably. And that was the idea that people can be persuaded to live and work from each according to his ability to each according to his need. Communism, just like multiracialism, was based, I believe, on a catastrophic misreading of human nature. And communism staggered on for 75 years, just as our experiment in multiracialism has staggered on for 40 or 50 years, before communism finally foundered on the simple and utterly obvious fact that people tend their own private vegetable gardens a lot more carefully than they're willing to work on a collective farm. Well, of course, communism, because it was so much based on this misreading of human nature, it became something like a secular religion, just like the doctrine of the unimportance of race has become a secular religion. Both had their dogmas, their hysterical reactions to dissent, their astonishing ability to ignore obvious facts, the suppression of all disagreement, excommunication of heretics. And their most remarkable thing, though, was that although communism required an entire state apparatus to keep it going, in America, there is no state apparatus in that sense. Every man is his own commissar. Every person censors his own thoughts. And that's why, even when they're moving to the suburbs, even when they're pulling their children out of public school and paying after-tax dollars to send them to private schools, whites keep insisting that race has nothing to do with it. And I think many of them actually believe what they're saying. But this is what orthodoxy simply requires that they believe. Of course, an orthodoxy that goes against human nature can't survive. And this particular orthodoxy, I believe, will collapse eventually, just as communism did.
Not racist, you're a racialist.
And 2,000 years ago, the Roman poet Horace pointed out, as he said, "You may drive out nature with a pitchfork, but she will always return." And at some point, nature will reassert itself, and whites will decide not to commit racial and cultural suicide. In the meantime, though, the really intriguing question is, why are whites letting this happen? Why do they do this? Why do they still pay lip service to this ideal of racial equivalence, of integration?
This was Demographic Shifts in America by Jordan Taylor. You're more than welcome to finish listening to that lecture. Demographic Shifts in North America by Jordan Taylor. And it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm gonna take my ass back to bed. I'll get up in like 6 hours. Oh, so we are working our way through this new commission thing. And it's looking pretty good so far. Got the skin tones filled in, and now I'm starting to block in the clothing. So for the next couple of days, I'll work on that. While I'm blocking in this painting, hopefully my other commission is drying, and well, 2 commissions are drying. One of them I can ship off, and one of them I can start working on after I finish blocking this in. And I still have some of my own work I need to get done too for my show coming up soon. But like always, appreciate everybody chilling in the studio with me. And yeah, so hope you guys have a good evening, and catch you next time. Peace.